Hello everybody, this is my first recorded Zwift ride. I thought I'd put one together. I've been enjoying a lot of other people's rides out there, so I thought I'd put one, see what mine looked like. Today I'm doing the Zwift time trial group, Zwift TT Club Racing. It's a 17.3 kilometer loop around the, what is it called, the Loch loop in Scotland, on the Scotland course. It is pretty flat, 143 meters, a couple of bumpy climbs in the back end. I'm not sure what my real plan was when I started, but ultimately my goal was to initially my goal was to just make sure I hovered around 200 watts, which keeps me around 3.1 watts per kg, and then really attack the hills, and also, because it's a 2-lap course, see what I could do on the second lap versus the first. I kitted up in my full Zwift attire with a aero helmet, and also on my TT bike. Wish I had the bike in real life. It's a beautiful thing. And then I did the warm-up. My warm-up total was probably about 12 minutes, 8 of which were spent in the starting corral waiting for the timer to count down. I tend to do the TTs quite often, just to try and get a good steady workout. I push where I want to push, and I also try to make sure that I'm holding a good standard power throughout. Quite often, when I'm not necessarily trying to work out and I get into a race situation, it's very up and down, and a little bit more inconsistent. A lot of fun still, but I get away from that steady effort, which is what I was looking for on this day. Hope you enjoy. I'm going to be popping in and out throughout, and it goes pretty well. I have a pretty good race. I'm feeling pretty good, even though I had a big long ride the day before, so I had some tired legs when I started. But by about the first 5-6 kilometers, everything seemed to flesh itself out. So talk to you soon. And you can hear the rousing cheers, and we're off. You catch some cows in the background too. Zwift does some great job with some sound effects in the back. I am not the super great Zwift racer that likes to go out at 400 watts right away. I really can't hold that for a very long time, so I tend to come out steady. Here I was in the 240s, 230s, 220s, and I tried to hold it for a while. My goal was, like I said earlier, was to try and stay around that 200 and 200 plus, and make sure I was consistent throughout the race, not necessarily up and down. Obviously, in a TT situation, there is no drafting, so as we come up on each individual rider, whether it's me or whether someone coming up on me, you'll find there is no extra boost. Also, no boost in a time trial race, and it's just me against the clock. And that's kind of probably what I like about it. It takes me to my triathlon roots and what I continue to train for now. So it's just the gun goes, and you just try and manage your efforts throughout. The Scotland courses are really kind of cool, lots of castles, and Zwift does an excellent job of just distracting me from the utter discomfort that I might be feeling at any one point. Throughout this stage, I've kind of drifted down into the low 200s. The legs were not as fresh as they felt initially, and I felt my heart rate kind of starting to spike a little bit, so I backed it off a bit, and then you see people start rolling through. I am in, I believe, C classification. My race score is under 280, I believe, and that's part of my goal with this little program, is to try and bring up my race score as well, just as a measuring stick for nothing more than that. As we roll along the shoreline here, I started flipping through some camera angles, using the Zwift app, or the companion app on my phone that I have mounted on the bike. I just was able to flip through a number of the different camera angles, give it a little Tour de France feel to it. So here I'm still maintaining that low 200s, coming across the bridge, and then looking to push a little bit, because I know we're almost wrapped up our descent. We've got some punchy climbs coming up, and I'm trying to maximize my speed as I roll through. Catch the side, I'm sitting in 10th overall. That's all the grades mixed together. But if you catch the side, this fella from Japan rolling up on me, he's handling 5+ watts per kg. And if you watch him, he's going to come roaring through in a heartbeat. And there's a little bit of demoralization as he went by, because he really just kind of crippled me. But at the same time, I had to remind myself that he's likely racing in a different category and has no real effect on my race at all. I've been watching him come up on me on a pretty steady rate, so I just always have to remind myself that I am a middle-aged mid-pack triathlete type of guy, and some people here might be could be semi-pros riders, or they could be time trial specialists, or they could be somebody who's in the peak part of their season, whereas I'm just leading into it. I'm living in southern Ontario in Canada, and we're just coming out of winter and coming into summer, so most of my mileage has been done on Zwift, where some of these guys might be coming out of summer. Little side view of me in action. I always am amazed at the Zwift caricature that they give me. My little avatar, he tends to be a little more long-legged and less slender than I seem to feel when I'm out there, but must be the tri-suit. I noticed even when I went to the tri-bike, I got the skin-tight socks for time trial reasons. Pretty slick little pieces put together by Zwift. As we round the bend, I believe we're starting to come into our first climb. There it is. Nothing major for sure, but I did want to test myself a little bit. So I dropped a couple of gears and then started pushing a little harder. I really wanted to target the higher graded percentages. You see it marked there in the red on the graphic of the slope ahead of me. I really wanted to make sure I wasn't losing very much time on those sections, and actually even started to pull up on a few people. The consistency that I had early on, I wanted to maintain on my downslope and flats, but when I hit the climbs, I wanted to try and make sure I pushed through a little bit harder. And as you can see, I gapped that person there. Nothing spectacular, but just someone probably was doing for a consistent workout versus where I was going. I was pushing on the hills, and nothing major grade wise, but at the same time, once I started to push and it was in the bigger gear, I found that I just wanted to hold it. As I got up to the top of this hill and crested it, I had a pretty time that I was pretty happy with on the one little segment, and then we come into a bit of a descent after that before we start getting into the next set of climbs. Okay, so I now get it back into lower down into my wattages, trying to get down into the low 200s, 210, 220 max, and just trying to hold that at a good steady clip, and also having a good steady cadence as I worked. That was another thing I was working on in this drill, or in this race, and I tend to do it when I have time trial races. It's just to try and make sure that I have that steady cadence, trying to work on my pedal stroke, those kind of things, because it is going to be steady, and I am going to sit in a specific gear for a specific amount of time. Now we're staring at that second punchy climb in this one little section, and the same kind of idea. I wanted to make sure as I came into it, I got into a bigger gear and really hit it hard. Should start climbing right about there. There we go. And I wanted to make sure that I was pushing, still holding a good cadence or consistent cadence, and then I wanted to make sure I hit the portions that are up in the 7-8% range. I wanted to hit them relatively hard so that I didn't lose a lot of time, and then back as we come up to the top, it gets down into the low 2%, high 1% grade, so it's nothing really significant, but I try and make sure I hold it to crest the hill, kind of like what I do outside, I guess, but just to try to minimize the amount of time I'm going to lose and maximize the power that I exerted there through there. Then when we come over the crest of the hill, now we've got a little bit of a descent coming up, and then we've got a longer stretch coming back up in again. Now we head into the biggest climb on the loop, just not necessarily number of meters climbed vertically, but certainly the longest of the three. As we come cruising along here, I played around with cameras a little bit just to give it that little bit of a different feel. I came up, we're still not in huge percentage ranges through here, but I was targeting that section that's marked red. I wanted to make sure, again, I was going to have high speed coming into it, and then try and maintain as much as I could and not lose, and to minimize what I was going to lose. Same thing I'd done on the other two climbs. And as I came up on this guy again, I probably get a little bit of benefit being in the TT bike versus them being on their road bike. But the same kind of premise where I hit that red section, I wanted to make sure that I hit it as hard as I could, or hard as and steady as I could, to come through. Now, the same thing was being done by this fella here as he came by me, and he literally drops me in a second. And again, same kind of thing. You can't get demoralized by people passing you because you really don't know what they're doing or what stage of their race season they're in. So there was no disappointment, just I got the pleasure of watching him ride off into the sunset as he headed up across the hill. This will bring us, as we crest the top of this hill, this will bring us through the first lap. I think each lap was in and around 8K. Yeah, 8 and change. So each lap, the second lap, I had a really good feel for what was going on, what I was going to have to repeat, and at the same time see what I still had in the tank. Now, as I watched those two guys ride off into the sunset, I had no way I was going to hang with them. They were pushing pretty significant wattages compared to what I was going to do, and that got us to the completion of our first lap. So in our first lap, I'm 12:47, 12:46-ish. That kind of put in my head that I was aiming for that 24-25 minute range for the actual completion of the race, which I thought was a pretty successful score or a pretty successful time for the condition I was in, and also the time of year and what I've been doing. For the last little while, I've been doing a lot of run training, train for marathon, and probably backing it off to a half marathon now, just because of some little tweaked injuries that don't allow me to do the super long runs. So I have pretty good run legs, but haven't had great cycling legs. I've been using Zwift especially as one of my recovery tools. So I'm using a lot of the runs that we're doing, or a lot of the rides that I'm doing, just as easy spin outs. So I haven't really pushed in a while, and so I wasn't sure what kind of thing I could put down. But I was pretty happy with that first lap. So in the second lap, I'm still feeling pretty fresh. You can see I'm now trying to aim for the 220s rather than the low twos. You'll see it bounce up and down a little bit, and probably I reached for water around that time. But the goal on the second lap was to still maintain above 200. That was my main minimum that I wanted to do, but then also start to push a little bit more on the flats, and then when we got up into the climbs, attack them the same way I did in the first lap. There goes another fine gentleman blasting my doors off as he goes by, and I played around with the cameras a little bit just to emphasize the pass, because he did such a fine job. In this kind of race, we've got all kinds of people, all the different levels, all the different groupings, but also people went off 3-4 minutes ahead of time, and also very strong riders. So there's a lot of people out there pushing big power, and they'll quite often just leave me in their dust. So in a way, he goes, and we won't see him again as we roll through. And we're coming up, probably rolling through the last few descents, coming across a few bridges. Lots of nice scenery to the left and to the right. Castle coming up on the right hand side as well. A little something to distract you with. Throughout this whole section, I've been kind of keeping an eye on the standings to the right. I'm watching the Norwegian guy, I believe, in front of me. I could see his time and his watts per kg, and I could see that I was slowly gaining on him, and I kind of used it as a carrot on the stick. I was going to chase him down as best I could. And then you had, in behind me, I had a couple of British riders, or at least British flags, that I was kind of keeping an eye on as well. The one right behind me with the polka dot jersey, that suggests that they're put down some of the best climbs, one of the best climbs of the day. So I wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure I kept some space there. I think it was 15 seconds at one point, and maybe even got a little bit closer. And then the orange jersey, a little ways down, I believe it's a female rider, but she, if it is whoever it is, put down one of the best times for the lap of the first lap of the race, because they have the orange jersey moniker next to them. So that gave me a little bit of cause for concern. And then you can see the person behind that getting into the really high watts per kg. I wanted to keep an eye on all three, and the best I could do, because as much as I'm racing myself and trying to keep that steady wattage, there is a little competitive aspect to it, is for me, to try to make sure I'm reeling in the person in front of me and keeping the people behind me off my back. We're rolling through the flats. There is Nessie over on the left hand side, and we're trying to get into the beginnings of the punchy little climbs before we have that big climb. And you can see my wattages started to pick up a little bit. I'm up in the 220s, 230s, and for me that's a good, hard, steady effort. And then if I can get to the bottom of the climb in and around that wattage, then my idea is to again hit it a little bit hard, especially targeting the red sections there to limit the amount of distance and time I'm going to lose, but to really try, and you can see there I'm starting to pick up a little bit. The idea, like I said earlier, the idea being to make sure I minimize the amount of time I lose. And there it is, coming into the end of the climb, a little slower than my previous, I believe. Yeah, just slightly. I didn't quite have as much gas in the tank, but I was still plugging along at a pretty good pace. Around this time, I also kind of realized that I had already covered almost 13 and a half kilometers. For some reason, I thought I had a huge chunk still left, but I've only got a few kilometers to go. And I think I started to push a little bit harder after the top of that climb, just trying to maintain my base level a little bit higher. There I dipped down a little bit, but I think we were descending. And then also to just try and reel in that guy in front of me, because he's been sitting there for quite a while. I went to a chase camera there, if you guys are familiar with the companion app. They've got different names for the different camera angles, and I flipped it down there. Quite often when I race, like whether I'm doing a Zwift crit race or something along those lines, I'll go to the first person and just to simulate actual riding. And there, a little bit of a pass by me, and then as we got into the climb, you'll see this guy kind of hold his own, staying right with me the whole way. I think whether he pushed a little bit harder or whether I didn't hold it as strong as I thought, him and I stay kind of neck and neck there for a bit, and once again I think I slightly pull away. Yeah, just slightly pull away as we get over the top of it here. And but again, I'm holding the 240s, which is I'm at 250s, which I'm pretty happy with. With the steady effort, not a lot of like 300s, 150s kind of thing. I wanted to stay in that smaller range, but to stay there for the whole race. And here we go into the final climb of the actual TT race itself. At this point, I actually flipped my companion app more to the map to see how much actual distance the guy behind me had between him and I was also watching his watts per kg. I went to the Zwifters nearby thing because it's a lot easier just to read off my phone, and I was really trying to make sure that nobody was going to reel me in and hit me at the line. Quite often that happens to me in Zwift races, mostly because my racing technique probably isn't perfect and I try to go a little bit earlier, and then they all kind of get me right at the end. So in this scenario, I wanted to make sure that I was going hard and steady and making sure that no one was gaining too much. The guy behind started to, but then he started to drop off. I think if he had continued, I probably would have buried myself to try and get through the finish line first. But today we had a good gap and nobody was really reeling me in, and unfortunately I didn't think I was going to be able to get the guys up front. And here we go, coming into the finish line. I'm still feeling strong. I wasn't totally gassed, which I was quite happy with because I was concerned that my head would be hanging in my aero bars by the time I crossed this finish line. But I was still pushing pretty hard, 260, 270, trying to get the best time I could, because there is also not necessarily starting at the same time as everyone else, so you're trying to make sure you're holding that best time. And boom, came across the line, and I believe it's going to pop up here in a second. Yep, sitting second. And eventually, out of the 6 or 7 people that were in our category, I ended up with holding second place, so I was pretty happy with that. It's anytime you podium, even in a Zwift race when there's only a handful of people racing, it always feels good. So yeah, and I think I ended up with a boost in my Zwift score, or my racing score, and I also think I ended up with a slight boost to my FTP, but I haven't done a test in a long time, so it was nice to get that as well. And then we roll into a bit of a cool down. You can see I've dropped down in the 140s, 130s. After I finish the race itself, I always have this thing about completing kilometers, so I ride until I hit 17 and then hop off and disconnect from the computer and everything. But I ended up doing another 40 minutes or so on just with one of the group rides, just an easy spin, and I really felt it the next day that it helped the recovery quite a bit. I was feeling pretty fresh the next day and still got in a decent run. So that's it for today. Solid ride all around for me. I was pretty happy with it. There's my 17. You see the notice to stop pedaling, and that's me hopping off the bike now to go and disconnect. So I'm going to end out the ride, and here's the map that they like to show you, the loop. So 2 loops of that course, just around some of the bays of Scotland, and I ended up with I believe, there we go, yeah, a slight FTP increase, which is nice to see. Like I said, I haven't tested in a long time, so trying to get it pushed up a little bit as well, along with that race score. So oh, and of course we get a little extra XP for completing another week of streaks. Unfortunately, I think I had a 42-week streak or 50-week streak, and then I got sick around just after Christmas, and actually just in the new year, and I ended up losing my streak and had to start it up again. So it's been one of my challenges. So all told, anybody who's likes doing a little bit of racing, the time trials are kind of fun because you're really just pushing yourself, and I find it a little bit more beneficial than one of the workouts that I do. If you like what you see, please feel free to like and subscribe. I'd like to get things out to as many people as I can, and I'd also like to see how much foothold I can get with this, doing these kind of things on YouTube. All right, have a great day, everybody. Talk to you soon. Keep Zwifting.